Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining me today. It's Allan Laboucan with the Rocks and Stocks News Show. I'm doing a spotlight on a pick because a new pick that I made just on Sunday was a company called Earthlabs Inc. And the reason that I had picked them is I love to find a great value proposition. And when it comes to value propositions, there is probably not a better industry than the precious and base metal and the stocks in those metals these days. For example, the gold miners are making money hand over fist, and yet relative to their free cash flow, they're still trading at a significant bargain, especially when you start to compare them against other industries. But I also believe that with the strength that we're seeing in gold and silver, I also think that copper is going to have a great year in 2026. This creates a situation where I think that a lot more generalist investors are going to start making their way into the precious and base metal stocks. Now, of course, the first thing that they move into are the largest of those, your major mining companies, of which I've got some picks that you can find on my Sunday show that I just put out a few days ago. And then they'll also look at the mid tiers. But then as you get further down, let's say into the junior gold precious metals miners, those are your smaller miners, your developers that are developing new mines, and your explorers. There is not nearly as much coverage of those in the those part those sectors inside of the mining industry. They do play very important roles. And why I'm excited about what's happening with Earth Labs is because they have a kind of a unique business model in that they are partially what you would call kind of like the picks and shovels of the industry that, during the great San Francisco gold rush, the picks and shovels guys that sold them made a lot of money. And one of the factors that I think that the mining industry does not have a good handle on is digital marketing. I say that they are, a lot in the industry are stuck in the fax machine era, and they haven't really got into the digital marketing era yet. And but as the industry gains strength and more generalists get involved, I think that the industry will start to pay more attention to the digital marketing space. And that's where let's say half of Earth Labs business is. They own CEO.ca, which is a very large bulletin board, if you will, where investors that are interested in the mining sector, they go to talk about kind of like a Twitter or X of the mining sector. And then they also own the granddaddy of all publications in the mining industry, which is the Northern Miner. And then they also own mining.com and the Canadian Mining Journal, as well as other assets. And so they have a very big presence in the digital marketing space. And as more in the mining industry get involved in digital marketing, they're going to be a go-to place. And I think that that's going to create a lot of revenue and a lot of profit. And that sort of looks after their, being a public company, having a staff, having offices, putting out all this content. That sort of can be looked after by the picks and shovels, if you will, of digital marketing. But what they also have and that's the driver of, you see in this news release, one of the highlights is this came out earlier today, net investment gains of 23.138 million for the quarter and 31 and change for 9 months ended September 30th of 2025. And if you look year over year, that is a 2,349% gain. In the same quarter of last year, they had a gain of 944,000. And in the third quarter of 2025, that's jumped up to 23 million. So, how this all sort of came to pass was that Earthlabs was originally a company called Goldspot. And Goldspot was involved in the artificial intelligence, using artificial intelligence in mining. And then a few years ago, in exploration. And then a few years ago, they were bought out by one of the world's large labs called ALS. And so they took that money and they put their expertise to work. Their chairman and CEO is Denis Laviolette, who is a very talented exploration geologist. He has had great success in the business. So he really knows the rocks. And on the stock side of things, they've got CJ Kim and Matt Wilson that are involved, as well as other people that help them to pick their stocks. Now, because they have this platform of digital marketing, or they have a portfolio of digital marketing platforms, they get a lot of data from industry related data that they can sort of get a sense for, what are people talking about? What companies are they talking about? What industries are they talking about? And then, because they're so well known in the mining sector, they have this ability to have what you call deal flow. So they can get a sense from their skills with artificial intelligence and utilizing that on their platforms. And then they also have this deal flow of all these great deals, stocks that come to them for financing or because they want them to consider investing in them. And so they've got the right people looking at the stocks. They've got this inside baseball, if you will, by using their artificial intelligence and technology skills on their platforms, and then they've got the cash to put to work, and so all of this combined is why they've seen such a substantial gain on their portfolio of 23 million in the third quarter of 2025. And so they've got this really interesting concept. It's kind of like the income from the digital marketing platforms looks after sort of the business and operations of the company. And then they've got a venture capital division as well. And it's going very well. They're really starting to get now why it's sort of a recent thing that they've started to get this great performance is because they are focused down the food chain, if you will, into the junior miners, the developers, and the explorers. And to be quite frank about it, even though gold has had it started a really important run from about the first quarter of 2024 when it broke out and started making record highs since then. But it the enthusiasm didn't really make its way down the food chain until about the second quarter of 2025 and the third quarter of 2025. So these guys were out there buying great assets in the past couple of years, if you will, and and now we've come into a much stronger market for the size of the companies that these guys have positioned themselves in. And the fact that they've increased their gains by 2,349% tells you that they're good at picking stocks and that the market is starting to reward that size of company. Now, I'm going to, I'll let you go through those numbers. Some of the ones that stand out to me are the 23 million in investment gains in the quarter, 31 million for the first 9 months of the year, 69 million, 736,000 in total cash equivalents, and investments. They had a really big gain on their advertising and sponsorship revenue in their digital marketing assets. Here's a quote from Denis Laviolette, who stated, and I quote, our strategy is paying off plain and simple. These quarterly results are the outcome of disciplined capital allocation, operational focus, and years of investment in the right platforms and people. Earthlabs has built leverage to the mining sector's next cycle, and it's showing up in the numbers. We plan to continue updating the market quarterly as we execute on our strategy. The train's moving, investors paying attention can see where it's headed. End quote. So as Denny has been saying, they've been sort of laying the groundwork over the last few years to get to this point where their platforms, their digital marketing platforms, should start to see a lot more investment going into them as the industry realizes that it has to do more digital marketing, and they've got the platforms to do that effectively with. And then also that they're what they're doing with their investments into the right kind of, as he says, mining sector's next cycle. I think that that cycle is starting to work its way down the food chain. And I'm going to pull up the gold chart here because I want to show you a few things. Okay, for first of all, let's go to a weekly chart and we can see here what I was talking about. Back in 2021, 2022, 2023, and even into the first quarter of 2024, gold was going kind of sideways, let's say at about a 1950 average price. Then it had a substantial breakout in early 2024 and has set a series of record highs ever since. Okay. And I believe strongly that this is a long-term trend that's being driven by the death spiral of debt, the cost of servicing the debt, that the fiat currency and debt system is broken. Now the stagflation genie's out of the bottle. So we're really in a perfect storm for gold. Now, I'm going to go back to the daily chart here. Just give me a second. I got to move my screen around a little bit. So here's the daily chart. I'm going to move over to silver. And silver, it took a little longer to get into that bull market, but back in June, it also had an important breakout and now has gone to the all-time highs. It recently set some all-time highs. This is the monthly, so it doesn't show you the individual days, but as you can see, this is the peak of the 2011, the 2001 to 2011 bull market. Then you had a perfect cup. The right side of the cup is above the left side of the cup. And I think what we're going to see is that silver is now ready to set a series of record highs. And so that combination is very bullish for the precious metal stocks. But then you look at copper, which is another group of companies that Earthlabs has is copper assets as well. And I'm quite confident that copper is going to have a great 2026. There is an estimate of a 500-ton deficit in 2026 that will only continue for many years into the future. And so, what the industry in copper, silver, and gold need is they need more success in the exploration and companies making important discoveries that then get moved up into development. Some of those will get moved into junior and mid-tier mining, and maybe some of them are even assets that the majors can take over. And now we've started to see takeovers happening quite significantly in the space. There's a period of time, though, that I really wanted to emphasize back in the summertime around July, August, so the first couple months of the third quarter, gold was kind of going sideways. Then it got stronger as when the Fed had their meeting in Jackson Hole, Wyoming, and sort of showed their cards that they're going to start cutting interest rates. And then gold and silver really blasted off. And I think that what they are sniffing is that the stagflation genie is being let out of the bottle. And that's very good for gold and silver. But it's also very good, obviously, for the precious metals stocks. But what was happening? Well, gold and silver were kind of going sideways in July and August. We started to see the precious metals stocks were actually doing quite well during the summer when they usually go on vacation and can often be quite soft during the summer. In fact, this summer, I was shocked at how buoyant the stocks were and how much financings were getting done. And so this tells you that the precious metal stocks kind of front ran the moves in the metals themselves. And that is no coincidence when Earthlabs saw this big run up in the price of their assets. So the point I'm trying to make by all this is that there is a very serious reason why well, there's long-term reasons, there's and short-term reasons that they have seen these gains so substantial year over year. And I think this next year is going to be equally as impressive because this trend down the food chain of the precious and base metal stocks is just starting. And why I like this company so much is because they have a very talented group of people involved. And with these assets, they get great deal flow. They get to look at a lot of great companies, and they have the filter from the team that knows what to look for, and they're finding a lot of good stuff. So I picked them just a few days ago on the weekend, and I'm glad I did because they started the week at about 23 cents. They were up to 29 cents today. They had right at the end of the day, they were trading most of the day at 28 and 29 cents. And at the very last few minutes of the day, somebody hit the bid and knocked it down to 26 and a half cents. They were still up 12.77%. But I think as these details of what has been happening and the people do more homework about them and what their business is all about and their skills are all about, I think that this trend that we've actually been seeing since about let's say, first few months of they were sort of going sideways in April, May. Then they had a significant breakout. They had a golden cross, had a good May and or sorry, good June. They came off in July, started back up, came back down to the 50-day. But I like the trajectory of this 50-day moving average a lot. And I like the trajectory of this 200-day moving average a lot. And I think that with the quality of the investment, the stocks that they own are just starting to be recognized for how good their projects are. And as that's happened, that generated these incredible numbers that I talked about earlier from their news release. And when I run the numbers, I kind of look at it and I go, man, this company is like you're buying a dollar for 30, 35 cents. And I think that the dollar is going to be worth a couple dollars, $3 in the not too distant future. So I really think that this is one that for, especially for investors that let's face it, when you got a guy like Denny Laviolette, Matt Wilson, CJ Kim, these guys have been in the business a long time and they know the rocks. These guys know how to find good companies. The reason I know that is I've recently been interviewed on some of their, I've been following them for a long time. I see the companies that they talk about. We have crossover in the companies that we follow that I follow in my reports and they talk about on their shows and in their digital marketing platforms. And yeah, I think that Earthlabs has a really bright future. It they're starting to show the quality of what the business plan is all about and their team is all about. And it's a really, in my opinion, an undiscovered gem that I think you want to do your homework on and take a close look at because I think they offer a tremendous value proposition and also a good way to get access to high quality explorers, developers, and small miners. And so, as always, my show's for information purposes only. I'm merely an idea generator. I try to use my training from my mentors in geology, geophysics, and geochemistry, plus my 30 over almost 40 years of watching the stock market very closely. So I got a pretty good handle on rocks and stocks, but that's my filter. I don't know your risk profile, and you need to talk to your financial advisors and do your homework before making any investment decisions. And I always emphasize the do your homework part because I think that investors that are well informed are the best investors. I've seen it in the mining sector and I've seen it across many sectors. And I think that's the kind of investor you want to be. And do your homework on Earth Labs. I think you're going to like what you see. Have a great day, and we'll talk to you soon.